as autumn colors fall.
Next to spring and winter, fall is my absolute favorite season.
This thing rules. The thing rules.
Oh, hey, what's up? I'm Brian Altano.
And I'm Max Scoville.
This is a show where we discuss something we love,
Unpack why we love it,
explain where it came from,
try to remember our first impressions of it,
share our weird stories about it.
maybe learn something new about it along the way.
But first and foremost, we're here to celebrate the fact that this thing rules.
Well, the leaves are falling off the trees, and that means one thing. Or it could mean a lot of things, actually. The trees could be sick, but the thing I'm getting at here is that it's autumn or fall. Which do you prefer?
There's other words for it, right?
The winter of our discontent? I don't know. What are the other terms for it?
Third wheel.
Third wheel.
Yeah.
Q3.
Q3, yeah. Everybody knows Q3.
Q3 rules, bro. Everyone loves Q3. No, so this is an odd one. We're talking about an entire season.
Yeah.
And what do you like? What do you like about this time of year?
So to be completely blunt, I like this time of year now that I don't have to go to school. Because I always hated this time of year. And I haven't had to go to school for a long time. My kid has to go to school. That's on her. She loves school. I never did. And so not having that anymore immediately cuts that sort of like thick layer of anxiety out of the air. It replaces it with a smaller, shorter stacked layers of anxiety, but it's not like that big, ham hock that whole hog of anxiety.
That's fair.
It's more like a deli meat.
Yeah, no, it's definitely like there's the fact that the days get shorter and it gets darker earlier because that fucker Benjamin Franklin decided to meddle with our oil lamps back in the 18,000s or whatever he was doing back then.
I think it was because he sent a key up into a cloud.
Yeah.
on a kite, and it got struck, and since then we've had to change the clocks 2 times a year. That's what I've read.
He was trying to prove that you couldn't kill a mouse by doing that, but he proved that it did daylight savings. In Arizona,
Right?
They didn't want to do it, but he told them to do it, and they said knock it off. That's why they are the 52nd state. Anyway, no, it does. It's the beginning of winter, which I feel like is, again, it's like that's kind of I don't know, things get kind of crappier outside. But some people like it, it's nice. But ultimately, like, this was the time of year when in the olden days everything got terrible. It was the worst, which is why you have Christmas shaped celebrations around the solstice, because it's like, hey, we're over the hump, we're in the middle here. But I feel like leading up to that, you get a lot of fun stuff with kind of, there's it used to be harvest time, and now we have this weird vestige of that where we're like, pumpkins, cornucopias, multicolored corn, let's put leaves up places. And I think we initially were like, let's talk about Halloween, but we always talk about Halloween, and I feel like there's something else going for autumn that's kind of inherently spooky even without the Halloween aspect.
Yeah,
where things just get kind of chilly and weird.
Well, it's I want to preface and say, like, this is coming from two people who you've lived in California for how long now?
25 years.
25 years, yeah. So it's 16 for me. And when I lived in New Jersey, like, we had an actual proper fall, right, where it would like a true autumn, where it would just things would just change, and you get a couple of those days where it would be like summery and bright for like 3 hours or something like that, but it was mostly like overcast and stuff. And now where I live in the Bay Area, I think you have it a bit too. When I wake up in the morning, it looks like I'm in like Newport, Rhode Island. And there's this thick layer of fog, and I went for a run this morning. It was 43 degrees out, and like I had like not like mittens, but like mitten textures, but with the fingers in them. And then
gloves?
Yeah, but not like when you say gloves, you think like the big either the big leathery ones or the ones you throw snowballs in.
Did they have little fingers that you put on your hands? Were they like socks for your hands?
Yeah, but not mittens.
So those are gloves.
Yeah,
they're still gloves, man. You could just say you're wearing gloves when you went running.
There should be a third word, like that, because I wear gloves when I do gardening, right?
Yeah,
and I wear gloves when I clean, like when I use chemicals to clean stuff, like dead bodies.
Yeah, that's fair.
No, and so I think there should be a third word for gloves you wear that are like the consistency of mittens but have fingers.
Okay, so like winter gloves.
No, like Glittens or something.
Glittens. Okay. Anyway, you were out there running around in your Glittens as one does.
And it was like 42 degrees and foggy and spooky. And like I saw like a fox and I saw some deer and it was like beautiful. And then right now it's 75 degrees out and it just feels like summer's still going. So fall's weird here. We get like where I live, I'm kind of tucked in between a bunch of mountains. So we get all this trapped fog in the morning. It's really beautiful and creepy. And you get that fall feeling and then it kind of burns off. And then you get that thing starting in a few days where you get out of work and you're like, all right, time to use the barbecue, and it's pitch black outside. And so that's the weird ups and downs of it. But I do appreciate that because there are like, I don't know, like I was in Orlando a couple months ago and you wake up and it's just like sunny and like 84 degrees and then it hits like 92, 94, 96 degrees and then nighttime comes around and it's like 81 degrees and you're like, I guess that's a day.
Yeah.
But I like having like a little bit more of a gradient there.
I mean, in California, like I feel like you generally, things are kind of summer by default. And like you get maybe sort of spring shaped stuff, but I feel like the closest thing to winter you get is fall. So maybe we have that. Yeah. And it's also, I don't know, even on the East Coast growing up, like fall is moderate. Fall is a nice kind of like half measure between summer and winter. And it's like, it's not, again, summer in New England is kind of miserable. It's hot as hell. It's sticky. You don't want to do anything. And then, maybe it'll start raining and you just cool off a little bit. And, it's still fun, but like fall comes around, you're like, oh, thank God, cool. And like, yeah, I don't know, in the Bay Area, I love that we're just like talking about the weather. This is great radio. But no, like in the Bay Area, like that we have these, there's like a chart that's like, it's like the 11 seasons of the Bay Area because it just does all this nonsense. And you get this thing called like Fool's Summer where, or like Fool's Winter, I think, where it like, it'll just get really cold for like a week and a half and then it'll suddenly be summer again. And you're like, what the fuck was that? And like, I've completely gotten, a couple years ago, it totally screwed me up. And I want to say it was like mid-September, early September. And it's just like I saw a couple like leaves on the trees start to turn brown and it got like a light breeze and I was like, ooh, it's getting chilly, time for spooky stuff. And I started like listening to the Misfits and like, wanted to watch like Nightmare Before Christmas. And then by the time like
your fucking scarf down for the first time all year and you're winning, you're like
doing all this stuff, getting ready, time to make some hearty roasts for dinner. Some big stews. And then 20 minutes later, it's just hot out again. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'll put on my fucking Hawaiian shirt or something. And then Halloween rolled around and I was like, this doesn't feel right. I already got this out of my system. This is wrong. This is weird.
No, it's the idiots winter or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I did that the other day where I was just like, ooh, it's fall time. I'm going to make a shepherd's pie. And then we ate it outside because it was like so nice out. And I'm like, I'm not complaining. It's great, but it kind of breaks you. But I will say where we live specifically, fall is like an actual reprieve for anything alive that isn't a person, and even them too, because it regularly goes like 8-9 months without raining a fucking drop here. Like, it's insane. And then it starts raining for the first time ever in like 9 months and you're excited about it. And then it does it for like 6 days in a row and you're like, knock it off. And then it only does it on weekends for like 2 months straight.
Yeah, that's
nice
just
thing. Mean.
That's fucked up. I hate that. That drives me crazy.
You get to see like the hills and the, the vegetation all of a sudden be like, oh my God, thank you.
Yeah, that's a weird thing. I guess in California fall, it's like things turn green, but most other places it's weird because like I grew up in Connecticut and like we would get like waves of like leaf peepers, like leaf tourists would show up and they'd just be like, people would just drive up and they'd like stop their cars and get out of their cars and just stare at like a hillside. And I'd be like, what are you doing? Get out of the fucking road. What are you doing? Stop doing it. And it's like, look, and I miss it so much. I miss that foliage. I miss seeing those colors changing. And it's like, it's honestly
we get it a bit,
but you have to go look for like the trees that do it. Cause like most of them are like, no, we're not playing that game. Well, and then you find like a little copse of maples somewhere and they're like, ooh, it got chilly for once. We're changing color. Like
my neighborhood has a bunch of trees that do that, and then it also has a bunch of palm trees. And so you'll like look down and you'll be like, look at this. This is so cool. And then you look up and you're like, and again, this is not me complaining, but it's also it's very different than the fall you and I both grew up with, I think. But what I do love is that all of a sudden there's just like there's like pumpkin patches everywhere and hay rides and all that stuff, and like that's all attached to Halloween. But the thing about those places is that they start off as pumpkin patches and then they become Christmas tree farms pretty much overnight, right? Like I think you could probably, I think people go like the day after Halloween and they buy pumpkins and then they feed them to like farm animals. You know about that, right? Like it's a whole like there's a whole like pumpkin recycling program basically for all the unsold ones. So all these like fucking cows and sheeps and horses and shit like that. And you go to the zoo, there's like just a fucking gorilla throwing 60, 70 of them at a wall or whatever. And yeah, those guys get all that shit dirt cheap. They love it. I personally don't like when Halloween's over, but that's a different topic. But no, so you get that transition of like a bunch of really good holidays are all stacked up around the same time. And back to school is not one of them for me. Some people like that, but then you get Halloween and then you get Thanksgiving, and those are all really fun. And I really like them both. And with that comes a change in like you said, you hinted at it, right? Like you're making like stews and braises and all that, and you're cooking stuff that you didn't want to cook in the summer. And it's I love it. Like it's really nice to be
cozy.
Like,
I don't know. It's
it's
nice.
Cozy.
Yeah, you want to hear the most sort of California fall experience? I think last year, I forgot that. Again, this totally screws with me. It's like when you take a goldfish and you put it in a closet and it turns white because it doesn't know what daylight is or whatever. Like I'm just like, I don't know what time of year it is at any given time. Like I'll get like a weird chill. I'm like, ooh, it's almost fall, and I'm like, it's May. What are we doing? Like Halloween totally crept up on me last year, and I was like, oh shit, I should go buy a pumpkin. And so I went for a run in little shorts and like a tank top because it was 75 degrees out. And I went to like Target or something, and they had one pumpkin left. Like I think I asked somebody, and he like laughed at me. And I was like, okay, fine. I like looked around, I found one, it was on like 90% off or something. And I was like, cool. And I bought this pumpkin, and thankfully it wasn't totally rotten and haggard. And then I went home with it, but I was wearing like exercise clothes, and I was walking down the street holding this pumpkin, and I just looked like if an alien came to Earth and tried to pretend it knew what basketball was, but completely missed the assignment.
It's like if they made like a mini series about like Hobgoblin dying, and then they made like 9 different ones came back to replace him, like they did for Superman.
That would,
one of them's like a straight up basketball version.
I would love that. That would be great. Basketball hobgoblin. So yeah, I definitely look like a basketball hobgoblin that day. But yeah, like just the fact that I can walk down the street holding a pumpkin and be like, oh, fall is here. I'm in shorts. It doesn't make any sense. It's very stupid. But
are there videos of professional basketball players just like fucking windmill dunking a pumpkin?
Why? There should be.
Yeah,
I want to see what happens if the Harlem Globetrotters just get pumped. The Harlem gourd lobbers just make them fucking throw some pumpkins around.
And they're playing that whistling song like do 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 do, and like one of the guys just switches a basketball out with a pumpkin, throws it at the other team, and the other team are just like those guys in wrestling that always lose. They're jobbers or whatever.
I would love. I don't know if this has happened, but I would love to see like the Harlem gourd lobbers, where it's just a seasonal Harlem Globetrotters event where everything is a little bit macabre, and they play like that whistling song, but it's got like a theremin in there to make it spookier, and there's like
spiders on the net.
Yeah, exactly. The net would be spider webs. The backboard would have like cracks in it already.
The backboard would be one of those like fun house mirrors where you can see like a ghost behind you, and you go to jump up and you're like, whoa. That would be great.
This was great.
I can't believe we're not in charge of anything.
Why don't they put us in charge of novelty sports? We have all sorts of great ideas for that.
If there should be like a Nintendo Power contest where you could be like a NBA commissioner for a day, and you just come in and you just go, just one thing, and like, what is it? And you're like, pumpkin basketball just for the league for the day. And they're like, what does that mean? They're like, no more basketballs, just pumpkins. Make it work. I know they don't bounce, so there'd be a lot of traveling. But there would also be a lot of traveling from fans to those empty seats.
The cool thing is if they don't bounce, they just break open, but you leave them on the court, and then you've got these hazards of you've got these like pumpkin seeds everywhere, so people will be slipping around.
Yeah, that's a good way to make sure a professional basketball player never plays another game in his life.
Hi, NBA 2K, you want to be the next Fortnite? I got you covered. Listen up.
Where's Midway? They need to come back and make violent arcade sports games again. Do pumpkin like a Halloween basketball. One. Yeah, do pumpkin basketball. Pumpsketball.
A lot of people, I think I like the fall because that's when like football season starts, and like when does basketball happen? Is that the fall too? Also, I don't know. I
think so.
I don't know these things.
I don't either.
The thing that happens in the fall, or used to happen a lot more, was when video games all came out.
Yeah.
Like it used to be the holiday season was this big deluge of like all the games are out in time for Christmas, and it was very cool. And now they just kind of come out all the time for whatever reason.
They're out every day, all year, all week, all month, all year. They'll like in the middle of like 5 big games coming out, they'll be like, and Hollow Knight is here. And you're like, what? Today? And then the other ones were like, that was rude that you did that. It's like, well, there's no good time.
There's
You're
no good
always
time.
they're always gonna step on somebody's toes, basically.
You know what fucked me up is Netflix put out that Guillermo del Toro Frankenstein movie. They're putting it out like in early November.
Yeah, right.
Great.
And
Okay.
they put it in theaters for like 4 days, and then took it out of theaters. And I had tickets for it on Friday night, and then at like 6 o'clock, I was like, I'm fucking exhausted. I got my ass kicked this week, and going to see a 2.5-hour movie at 8 o'clock on a Friday night's not happening. So
Isn't getting old grand? Isn't it a thrill?
Great.
Yeah,
it's great.
Yeah,
that's why I love fall. No, it's
yeah. Have you watched Over the Garden Wall yet?
No, not yet.
You got to throw that on. So if anybody hasn't checked that out, I feel like anybody who has checked that out is probably like into it. It's this bizarre miniseries that Cartoon Network put together. It's just, and it's like, it's Halloween adjacent, but I feel like it's more just autumnal in general. And it's about these like kids who wind up in this like magical realm of just weird pumpkin shit and like witches and werewolves and stuff. And it's like it's like way too creepy for a children's show. And it's broken up into like 10-minute episodes. And I think the whole thing, could be like a really weird movie, but instead it feels like a bunch of just sort of bizarre vignettes stitched together. Mm-hmm. And I think it was one of the Adventure Time people basically having like a blank check to do whatever the hell they wanted. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to make this weird thing that's got Elijah Wood and Christopher Lloyd and Melanie Linsky as a bird. And they're going to get in some scrapes and scrambles, and people are going to make it a harvest time ritual. And initially I was like, I think I was vaguely aware of it and was like, okay, it's a Adventure Time shaped thing, whatever. I'm not into that. And then I eventually caught it and I was like, oh, this is the best. And it's totally become this like, it's become like a little fall tradition. And it's weird because it involves Halloween, but I don't put it like, it's one of those things where I can also kind of like deal with it in like November, where I'm like, this feels like good right now. I fell down a weird wormhole, rabbit hole, animal hole of some sort years ago, realizing how creepy Christmas is, or like how there's all these, bizarre kind of pagan occult rituals associated with that. And just the fact that like fall is eerie, like we always kind of look at like Halloween, like, oh, it's spooky. And it's like, okay, yeah, but that's like that's one part of it. And then it keeps going and everything gets darker and the leaves fall off the trees and the trees start to look like skeleton hands. And then everything outside dies. And it's just eerie. Like, I kind of love that. Like, I love that sense of just,
I do too. And there's almost like a renewal to it. And in the sense of like, get out of here, you shitty old trees. But like they molt, right? Like they have to like, you're saying goodbye to the year in a weird way. And there's also this thing I noticed, and I see it with everything, where like mid-October kicks in and people are kind of like, so this year's basically done, right? And you're like, what? I mean, no, is it? And
so I used to think when I was a kid, when you're a kid, your whole perception of time is completely different. But I remember being like, Halloween and Christmas are miles apart.
Yeah.
And the fact that like there's a month between Halloween and Thanksgiving and a month between that and Christmas, not even like a few weeks.
Yeah.
But the fact that just comes in rapid fire is like completely fucking me up. And I feel like I'm at that point where my brain is undergoing some firmware update where I'm like, I'm barely able to keep up with this. And I'm also watching my kid process it, where she doesn't understand the months. And she's like, when like her birthday's in the spring, and she's like, can I do this thing for my birthday? And I'm like, yeah, but also, did you know Christmas is happening before then? Have you put that? You can have a Christmas present too. But she's also like, Halloween hasn't happened this year. And she's like, thinking next year I'm going to be a gremlin. And I'm like, let's talk about this in 11 months or whatever. Like, you got time to sort it out.
Completely different interests.
Yeah. But I mean,
yeah, it's a moving target.
Yeah. It's just that whole time dilation thing. It's bizarre.
I think two things happen with that. I think, when we were kids, Halloween decorations were like a very small part of things, and you had to go to like specific stores. You had to go to like party stores to get them. Whereas like, I mean, we didn't have like Walmart and Target and stuff like that when we were really little, but there was like department stores, and maybe they put a couple of things out. But Halloween at the same time in the last few years became this much bigger thing, where every store has like a big front end display of like, hey, Halloween is here, right? Even like grocery stores and stuff like that. And at the same time, Christmas decorations became bigger than ever, and Christmas got more bloated and started kind of stepping on Halloween's turf. So if you're a kid now, you're not even at the point where you've celebrated Halloween, and you're maybe potentially over it, but also Christmas has overlapped it already, and there's already Christmas stuff there. So you get in this weird situation where you can't really track it. And so that's the thing that's always fucked me up, because it's like Christmas is winter in my brain, right? But Christmas shit shows up early in the fall. Like, we're only a little bit in the fall and there's already Christmas stuff everywhere. And that's where it starts, like the seasons start to bleed a little bit. And also with like, climate change, with the average person living somewhere has gotten warmer than when they were kids or whatever. Unless you're one of those like Adam Carolla guys who are like, when I was a kid, no one got bee stings. And it's like, yeah, they did. You just didn't pay attention. They didn't have hospitals for kids. Yeah, they did. You just were stupid. You were born in a car. That's why you did a car talk TV show or whatever it's called.
His father was a Toyota Corolla. Did you know that?
That's no. So I think that's like been a big part of it, where it's like it's hard to actually like keep track of the seasons anymore for that specific reason, because a lot of it kind of melts in with each other with the holidays. But fall is very specifically a time where like I get a little bit cozier. Like I have this feeling where I'm like, I think it's also for us personally, like summer is it's so heavy on work travel and trips and events and stuff like that. And at the same time, our kids are home, and then, fall comes around and they're back to school. They're back on something normal. We're back at home, not really traveling as much. And you're like, okay, well, there's a couple months left in the year. What do I want to do? Right? Like, what do I want to do with the rest of this year? Should I call it? Like, do I feel accomplished? And just kind of like, do the work expected of me and be a good husband and father and friend and stuff like that until the wheels fall off of 2025? Or like, do I want to really pedal to the metal to the finish line or whatever? And you get that,
Yeah. The other thing, I love that we're like fall rules, but also seasonal affective disorder. Like,
yes.
when there's, and to this day, I'm like, I don't know. I moved to California 25 years ago. I've been in effectively a very sunny, cheerful place. And you've given me shit for this, but then I also watched the same thing happen to you, where it's like there's less daylight and you just become like a bitter, sad person, and understandably so. But again, it's like, it's California. Like, we have it on easy mode. We have it on like narrative mode. You're just here for the story. Like, you don't even have like, there's not even combat in the seasons. They just, it's just you can skip the cutscenes. It's just,
it's golden gun, one hit kills.
Yeah, but I wonder how much of that is like, in with the Dawn of the Dead zombies, they keep going back to the mall because that's just how they know. Like, are our bodies just like, oh, it's fall, time to be sad, and they're not even processing. They don't even know what the fuck's going on there. They're just like, oh, we used to have to go to school. You talk about school coming around and like getting stressed out and sad about that. And like, yeah, same. And that's, I feel like, the universal, kind of Western experience of, fall comes, school. Okay, back to school. And some people like school. Some people are okay with that. But I think a lot of people just dread it. And I do wonder how much of like a Pavlovian, like deep-seated, like muscle memory that has on people, where it's like, oh, this time of year, this happens. And like, were you to switch that, where suddenly it's like summer comes, time for school, would there be like a whole bunch of people who are just like, I get sad in the summertime? Like, I don't know.
No, I think you're spot on. I think, and there's a lot of sort of like inner, soul searching you have to do to sort of break yourself out of pattern jail like that. I think like I don't know, the fact that you and I are like both adult men, and we've on and off spent years in therapy, is the kind of thing that, like, I don't know, if I have told my dad to do that, and he's been like, nah. And like his grandfather, who was like a truck driver, he wasn't doing that. And so for a very long time, I think it was just like people were not, they didn't open up about their feelings at all. They didn't talk about any of that stuff. And at some point I was just like, no, let me be that woke pussy liberal leftist beta alpha max, whatever the fuck it is, right? Like, I was like, there's no reason to just do the thing I always did, because people always did it that way before me. And like, the tradition sometimes is a mistake you annualize, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be something that you always have to do forever. And that's why with me, I was always just like, well, I moved to California for a job I love, and I met some great friends, and I met a wife, and I had a kid, and my kid was asking me the other day. She was just like, like what was it like when you got your job? And I was like telling her, I was like, I felt like I was trying to plant seeds in cement on the East Coast, and I just kept digging and digging and watering, and it just wasn't growing. And then I got, I was working, I got this call. It was like, hey, can you come do what you do out in California? And I came out here for the very first time. And like 2 years later, I met, a bunch of my friends, and I met my wife. And then after a couple years, we got married. And after a couple years after that, we had you. And you're here because all of that. And, now when we have Thanksgiving, we do it our own way. When we have Halloween, we do it our own way. When it comes to any of those traditions, we do it our own way. And I just, like, coming from a big family of Italians, like, you don't do that. You just do the one way you do that. And I was like, combo breaker, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I came in, and that's why, like, fall to me now is different, because it's like, it used to be, okay, this is what's going to happen. And then you're going to have to go here for Thanksgiving and have to go here for Christmas. This is what Halloween's like. And we just started being like, this is our own thing. And that was really good for a while. And 2 nights ago, my kid was like, hey, can I go trick-or-treating with my friends on Halloween? And I was like, oh, yeah. I was like, but I mean, we always hand out candy together in our neighborhood, and then mom and I take turns walking you around the block, and one of us stays back and hands out candy to the other kids, and the other one takes a walk. And I look at my wife, and there's like just a cartoon single tear just rolling down my cheek, and then my other eye is like, you were totally fucking trick-or-treating with your friends in second grade, and probably in first grade. Like, I would get out of school, throw my bag down, throw on a costume, run out the door, and trick-or-treat until the fucking stars fell out of the sky, right? Like, you just do that. And now I'm like, my baby girl. And it was, so yeah, hold on to those while you still have them. And so, your fall traditions can still change even when you make new ones. But yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, well, I don't know if is that seasonal depression? Is that growing up? Is that like holding on to some level of innocence that's almost gone? But either way, I'm glad to be there for it, because
Yeah.
it's like all of that is part of that season for me. And also, like, I had a negative attachment to school forever. Fucking hated it. Hate the end of summer, and I've talked about this before on the show. Like, I would rather fucking Freddy Krueger jump out and stab me in a grocery store than in the middle of July see like a rack of binders and that fucking Mead notebook paper stack, and it says like back to school, and it's on a shitty chalkboard that somebody put on cardboard. Like, I would rather Leatherface chop my fucking head off. That's
Well, you can have that. You just go to Spirit Halloween, and they will
exactly.
do that.
And
Yeah.
I love their work over there. And now, like, every single day I've picked up my kid since she started school where we live, this is her 3rd year there now. I've been like, how was school today? And she has skipped down the sidewalk and gone, good. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Are you just like waiting for the other shoe to drop? Like, at
Yeah,
some
and it
point, she's
will,
gonna be like, "Fucking
like,
sucked."
Yeah, like, it's gonna. She had a thing the other day was just really funny, where it was like she got in an argument with one of her friends at school, and they started writing notes to each other in class, and they were like passive aggressive mean notes, and then they started correcting each other's spelling in the notes, but they're both in second grade, so neither of them can spell very well. So my daughter was just like, the girl was like, you're the meanest kid I ever met, and my daughter crosses out meanest, and she was like, this is how you spell meanest, and then she spelled it wrong too. And
That's
I'm like,
so
"Oh,
funny."
this is great." But no, for the most part, like, she likes school. My wife liked school and got excited for it growing up. It's just me. And I don't want to pass that down to somebody else. So I can sort of just be like, oh, let me change that habit in my own head. School doesn't suck. Maybe it did for you, or maybe really it didn't.
Yeah,
You just
no, I
made a
mean,
big deal out of
it's
it.
breaking tradition, but with like a bad
Yeah.
tradition of just like, maybe this is okay. This is all right. You get
Mhm.
like a new notebook. You get to write stuff. You get to see your friends. I mean, school early on is awesome because children haven't figured out how to hate each other yet. They just kind of go like, we've got this little, it's one of those like little page a day journal things where it has like 3 different years or whatever. And every day has a different prompt. And every night before bed, I like ask my daughter like this little question in there. And the other day it was like, do you have any enemies? Which is a really weird thing to ask a child of any age. But I guess she was like, what's an enemy? And I think my wife was doing better. She's like, oh, it's like a person that you don't like who doesn't like you. And she was like, there's all these kids with names on it, and it's like my kid's saying these names, and I'm not sure if she's pronouncing them right or if they're just names that are just new that I haven't heard of. But she's like Fdenovan or something. It's like, she's like, yeah, Fdenovan, and I was like, who? My wife was like, do you don't like Fdenovan? And she's like, no, I like him. And she's like, oh, but he doesn't like you. And she's like, no, he likes me. And she's like, then that's not an enemy. And she's like, oh, okay, then no, I don't have any enemies. And it was like, what is the problem with Fdenovan or whatever?
My kid the other day on the ride home from school it's fall, so I had the windows down. It's a little bit of windy, it's a little windy out. And she goes, hey, Daddy. And I was like, what? And she goes, there's a boy at my school named Blank. And I was like, Blake? And she goes, no. And I was like, Lake? And she goes, no, Blank. And I was like, his fucking name is not Blank. Like, there's no fucking way. And I'm like, what grade is he in? And she was like, 4th grade. And I'm like, so what? He's like, what is that, 9? Like he's 10 years old and his name is still Blank. I was like, Blank is what your homework looks like before you fill it out. Blank is the absence of an answer. Like blank is where you put a name eventually.
Is it the French word for white?
What's up?
Is it the French word for white?
Like blanc?
Yeah.
Like isn't that the dude from Knives Out or whatever? Yeah. But I don't. It might be Blanc, and then somebody at school, it could be Blanca. Maybe he's like a Brazilian kid that can electrocute people. But no, she just said it's Blank. And I was like, there's no fucking way there's a kid named Blank. God. And I was like, are you sure it's not Bank? Like, and she's like, no. Because I was like, I know there's like, Bankhurst or whatever. Like that's a last name. And I eventually we were at a standstill. I'm like, there's no way for me to verify this unless I go into her school the next day and I like, knock on the principal's door. And I'm like, is there a kid here named Blank? And they'd be like, yeah, is there a cop here for you? Because there should be. So yeah,
dude, that whole thing of just like kid mysteries, like, and it's funny because when you're a kid, the entire world is full of shit you don't understand and like what adults are doing. Like, I don't know what any of that is. I don't understand it. I'm an adult. I still don't understand that stuff. But I don't know. Like, I drop my kid off at school and she just runs in there. And I pick her up and I'm like, what did you do today? And she's like, I don't remember. And I was like, did you learn anything? She's like, yeah. And I was like, what? She's like, I don't know. And I like open up her backpack and there's like a picture of a bear that's half colored in and like a bunch of crackers. And I'm just like, okay, did you hang out with anybody? She's like, yup. And I was like, who? And she's like, blah, blah, blah. It just says a bunch of names I don't understand. I'm like, what? This is good. We're going great here. Everything's cool.
I pulled a fucking, I was like 9 o'clock at night and I went to put my kid's homework in her backpack and I went to go hang up her backpack on the thing. And I'm like, it's fucking weird and heavy. And I go to tilt it and a fucking potted plant fell out.
What?
I was like, what kind of fucking Elmer Fudd shit is this? And I was like, hey honey, what's this? And she goes, it's a plant. And I was like, yeah, I got that far. What kind of plant? And she goes, I don't know. And I was like, did you grow it? And she goes, yes. And I was like, okay, you're answering me like this is my 5th time asking you all these things. This is my 1st time. And my wife comes in and she takes a picture of it with one of those apps and she goes, oh, it's a horse bean plant. And I was like, fuck both of you. Both of you can fuck off. Both of you are not giving me, what is a horse bean plant? No, but she did this thing. There was years where there was a kid at school, at her preschool, that was named Titus, and I was like, that's a weird name. And on one day, my wife was like, hey, so what are we doing on Saturday? Because Titus and Cody are having a pool party. And I was like, who is that? And she goes, Titus. She goes to school with our kid, or he goes to school with our kid. And I'm like, Titus? And she goes, oh, that's just what one of the ladies that works at the preschool doesn't speak very well. And she has just been calling him Titus for like 2 years straight. And he's too young to correct it. And everyone in the class just called him that. But like, we're friends with his mom and we know that's not his name.
Oh my God.
So for years, I was just like, how's Titus doing? Thinking like, whatever, that's, I have no idea what that is. It could be any ethnicity, good for him. Cool name. And nope, it's just Titus.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
God.
Anyway, it's a good time.
Yeah. What are you gonna eat for Thanksgiving now that Halloween's almost done?
I don't know. Are you guys doing like a Friendsgiving thing again?
I don't fucking know. Last year my wife did 3 of them and she's like, this year I promise not to do any. And I was like, cool, let's get Taco Bell.
Yeah, because we got invited to a couple last year, and by the time Thanksgiving came around, I was like so burnt out on it. But I was also this was the first year ever where like somebody recommended like, oh, there's like this restaurant near you that does like an amazing blah blah blah, and I was like, oh, actually, like getting all of that off of my plate literally and getting someone else to do it sounds lovely, but I also really like that thing where it's like 10 a.m. the next day and you're like, I'm gonna make an idiot sandwich with a whole bunch of nonsense.
That's
you
the
know,
thing. Yeah, that's the big, risk reward there.
yeah, I like grazing on like big turkey legs.
Yeah, I just want to not do some stuff,
Yeah.
I'm excited to not do some stuff. But I guess that's the holidays, not just fall as a concept, but yeah. Anyway, let's get back to it. Let's keep doing the things, and then we can keep doing them, and then then it'll be even more fall, and then sooner or later it will be Christmas time. But yeah, thanks for hanging out, talking about the seasons changing, man.
Of course. And you can break tradition too if you're listening. If you think there's only one way to do things forever, because that's the way you thought it had to be done, you can be anything you want. You can go from a Titus to a Titus.
This kind of went places. I guess that's sort of what happens when you cast a wide net, being like, you know what rules is one quarter of the entire year. A big, huge special thanks to our Patreon executive producers, Ben Burkhalter, Paul Atienza, Steve Cam, Kevin Lemasurier, Billy McKendry, and Snake Chip Chunkling. Thanks for all your ongoing support.
Just look at all this beautiful foliage.